Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Sharp by Design Production Mini Chicane, which apparently means the artificial curvature of a road like in a racetrack. I didn't know that. I Googled it right before I did this review. This was provided for review by Brian Nadeau of Sharp by Design. Thank you so much. I will link this down in the description. As far as I know, it's only available on his website. So I'll link his website. You guys can check that out. Thanks so much to my patrons for supporting me. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex and on TikTok at _metal_complex. First of all, this is based on an original custom. Brian Nadeau does his actual customs in-house in the United States, and then he does like production collaborations with Riot because it allows him to make way more. They cost way less money. His actual US customs are much, much more expensive, and he can't make nearly as many. So this is a good way to get these knives into the hands of people who want them. It's also absolutely worth mentioning before I start this review, it is no secret that I am a gigantic Sharp by Design fan. A lot of his knives are some of my favorite designs of all time. So there might be a little bit of a bias there. I figured it's worth just pointing that out. But I do really like this. It has a lot of the Sharp by Designness that I really, really like. Just wanted to make that clear right before we get started. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this knife. It's called the Mini Chicane because it's smaller than the full-size one, but I wouldn't describe this as a mini knife. Might be for some people. Overall length is coming in at a little bit over, just slightly, it's about 7.65 inches. Blade length is about 3.35. Cutting edge is about 3 1/4. The overall presence and feel of the knife, it feels bigger than that. It doesn't actually feel, you know, what it is, close to the size of the Para 3. First of all, we're going to do some size comparisons up against some other production Sharp by Design knives. So first off, up against the new Derecho, which I still doubt that I'm pronouncing correctly, and another large, like a full-size Sharp by Design, the Evo Typhoon. So there you go. And then on the smaller side, we'll do the Mini Tempest and I guess the Mini Evo Typhoon. So it is definitely right around the same size as those, but in true Sharp by Design fashion, the amount of blade you're getting for how compact it is folding up, like the blade to handle ratio is very, very good. And you see that across the board in his designs. Now, up against some more common knives, any custom skills you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and others. Up against the 8010 and the 8020.5, I believe almost exactly, I think actually exactly the same overall length as the 8020.5, but you have quite a bit more cutting edge there. Up against the, where are you at today? The Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. Once again, you can kind of see what I'm saying here, very close to the Para 3, but again, way more cutting edge. And then finally, let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and the Hogue Deca. So how is the action? Well, the action's very good because this is a Sharp by Design knife. And, sorry, just moving open blades out of the way off camera. It has the Brian Nadeau lipped detent. So it's not a detent ball. It's like a lip of, I believe, steel. It could be, I always forget if it's a lip of titanium or a lip of steel. But this creates for a much more crisp and more just like a snappy breakaway. And it seems like something that wouldn't make that much of a difference, but it absolutely does. And anybody who owns one of these knives, whether it's a custom or a production collab, they'll tell you the same thing. It really does have a super satisfying release. This flipper tab is more pronounced than the flipper tab on the Derecho. You can see there it's a little bit more shaped like the flipper tab on like the Mini Evo Typhoon, but it's still not quite as big. It's kind of in between. I like these flipper tabs. I feel like I know exactly where I'm supposed to lay my finger, and it just deploys exactly the way that I want. These will probably, I mean, they'll, like, for example, this is my oldest one, and this guy is so close to fall shut. just from me sitting and playing with it over and over and over and over again. These will break in a little bit, but the action is very smooth. It's not like overly tight or gritty or anything like that. It's super duper smooth. And what I like the most about these is the actual lock bar insert is lipped up. So what you catch when you disengage is the lock bar insert, and that feels extremely comfortable. I think the lock bar tension on these knives is also perfect, which is why they just feel at least a half step above some of the best, when the community describes like really, really great flippers, these always feel just a little bit better. And I think it's just because all of these elements together, including the lock bar tension, are just dialed in perfectly. So I'm a huge fan. Everything operates exactly the way that you would want it to. Let's do carry profile. So thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's really not all that thick. It's also contoured. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. You can see here, while you have quite a bit more, I mean, you have a reasonably tall blade, but you have so much more cutting edge, but the knife folded up is just all the way around substantially more compact than something like the Para 3, which has also always been a really easy to carry knife. It's amazing how much bigger the knife feels when the blade is deployed versus closed up. And that's the case with all of the Sharp by Design production knives that I, have carried and used. And that's a huge benefit. You want the knife to feel, easy to carry and compact in your pocket. And then when it's ready to go, you want it to feel like a substantial tool. And there's enough blade on this thing that that's exactly what it feels like. So I appreciate that. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use in this channel. So we have a T8 pivot, we have a T8 lock bar insert screw, which you never need to take out, and then we have T8 screws for the inlays. And some people are going to say, why do they put them on the inlays? Like, I don't want to have to look at that. The alternative would be using adhesive to lay these in. And maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe, Brian, you can jump in the comments and say, shut up, idiot, that wasn't me. But I feel like I remember hearing him say something about he doesn't love using adhesive, or maybe that in some cases the adhesive releases the scale, which I have heard of. So the screws ensure that the scale pieces stay in the frame, or the inlay pieces, and we don't need body screws because we have this. We don't need body screws out here, because it doesn't have a backspacer it connects to. It's literally a seam construction, and then we have this pocket clip screw going all the way through to the other side right here. So it actually is a very simple construction and minimal hardware. You just have the body screws out here, and it doesn't require more than one screw holding the frame together, which I think is really cool. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. Let's go ahead and weigh the knife here real quick. We are looking at M390 for the blade steel, titanium for the frame, and then in this case we have carbon fiber. You actually have a few different options. This is my favorite one right here with the silver twill. I just have a thing for silver carbon fiber. I think it looks really, really cool. It's also referred to as Alatex, but they have like a blue fat carbon. I think there's actually one more, maybe a lava flow or something like that. There's a couple of different options. The prices just barely vary. I think it's like $25 difference between some of the scale options. So yeah, that's what you're looking at for materials. So the weight on this guy is coming in at about 3.4 ounces, which is amazing considering you have, I think we measured that at like 3.35 inches of blade. So you have really, really good overall blade to weight ratios, and the balance is right behind the pivot. These seem like silly, teeny, tiny details, but they are definitely intentional, and you see that across the board with all of his designs. So I like that as a super nitpicky knife nut. Those are little things that I care about, even though in practice they don't necessarily mean all that much. But it does, it's nice, those little teeny tiny things, that a lot of us celebrate. It's neat to see all those come together. Blade stock thickness, let's measure that here real quick. The the blade stock thickness of this guy coming in at about 124 thousandths, so definitely, I consider 135 thousandths about the middle of the road. In the knife world, so it's a little bit thinner than that, but not like laser thin or anything like that. So anyways, meat and potato time. You guys have heard me say a million times that when it comes to my own personal preferences, preferences, I don't prefer the S-shaped curvature most of the time. This is a Persian style blade. To simplify it, it's a slight, I mean, you could say it's a Persian clip point, right? Or a scimitar blade, or a, what do they call that? Well, whatever. You guys get it, right? I don't normally prefer this. And if it is on the knife, I prefer that it is subtle, right? So I feel like the reason I mentioned the bias, right, towards Sharp by Design stuff is because this is obviously a Sharp by Design knife. There's a bunch of little telltale signs, including the pivot, right, the flipper tab. And so I feel like what's leaning me towards liking it is more so the Sharp by Design aesthetic and less the curvature of the blade. Just trying to be honest with myself and you guys, but I do like it. I really like how it just kind of melts. My thumb naturally wants to go right here, even though I'm not going to be doing that 99% of the time. It's just that curvature, as soon as you lay your hand down right here, you just want, you want to put your thumb right here. It just feels natural. And it's definitely on purpose, and it is definitely very, very comfortable. This pocket clip, along with, now this one, we're going to compare pocket clips here, because this is usually a point that's brought up a lot when it comes to Sharp by Design knives. And all of them are slightly different. That's what's cool about Sharp by Design is, like, I think each pocket clip is designed like with, it's like specific to the knife, and they're all very, very close but subtly different. The one consistent thing is that the tips up here tend to be pretty sharp. It's the same way with the derecho. This one, not so much. This has changed actually right here. It's still kind of like you could shave your fingernail off right there a little bit, but it is a little bit more knocked down, and it's also more of a nub and less of like a point. I really appreciate that on a not so massive handle. I'm not going to call this a short handle, but a not so massive handle is definitely way before the 50% line. And so these things combined, you know, with the contouring of the handle and just the general curvature of the handle, it's just really, really comfortable. This is a really comfortable knife, and I really like that. I also love that the jimping is functional. It extends out to a meaningful spot on the blade. Feels really good. As far as the cutting edge goes, it's not an absolute laser beam, but I would say somewhere between, it's like off of medium approaching thin. I know that that doesn't really mean a whole lot, right? And neither do my stupid little paper cut tests, but you cut the same thing over and over and over again, and you kind of get a feel for what to expect or what blades that are ground in a certain way feel like up against something like paper. Obviously, this changes dramatically depending on what it is that you're cutting, but this slices paper, no problem. I have no doubt that it will get through the standard materials that we all seem to be cutting throughout the day, which is mostly, let's be honest, is mostly cardboard. This will definitely demolish cardboard, no problem. Riat does a good job with M390, so I have no concerns there. Yeah, overall, good. Definitely on the slicey side, the curvature, there's a lot of belly. There's a tip that is not going to be the strongest thing in the whole world, but then again, what are you doing with the tip of your knife, right? The tip is meant to puncture things that are not as hard as the blade, which it will do. And the final, you know, the cutting apex, or the belly here, is meant to slice things that are not as hard as the blade, nowhere near as hard. So if you're doing that with your knife, it'll be just fine. I do like the transition from the flat to the swedge. I think that's cool. It gives the blade a little bit more of an aggressive look. Riat does a nice satin finish. I really wish that you know, we got to see like a nice high reflectivity tumbled finish, but Brian Nadeau tends to gravitate towards this finish, which is fine. It's fine. They do a good job of it. It's just my own personal preference, so that's pretty subjective there. One of the things that I love the most about Sharp by Design knives, and the same thing that I say in every single review, is that the billboarding on these knives is essentially non-existent. Brian Nadeau puts his initials right here. Let's see, on this one, it's just nowhere. I don't even, it doesn't even look like he put it anywhere. It's the same thing on the derecho, on the Mini Evo, and the Evo Typhoon. It's just all on the flipper tab, but we really get to enjoy the aesthetic of these knives. I like that. I don't like billboarding. The smaller, like if it has to be on there, the smaller the better. But I feel like his initials on the flipper tab is really classy, and the knife just looks really, really good all the way around. This knife is no different than past Riot built Sharp by Design knives in that the fit and finish and overall execution is absolutely flawless. These knives I use as a very specific example of just because it's made by Riot doesn't mean that the final product is going to be absolutely spectacular every single time. Riot is a super precision OEM. And so they can take a, let's call them napkin designs, right? You draw a picture of a knife on a napkin, and let's say for some reason Riot says, okay, we'll make it. They could probably find a way to make it work, and the tolerances all be, really low, and it will come out, feeling as good as that type of kind of slap together design could. But when you have somebody like Brian Nadeau, who's been making knives himself for a really, really long time, there's little teeny tiny things that translate, exponentially better when you're using a super precision OEM like Riot. So it's not just that it's made by Riot that makes it really good. It's that it was designed and all of these little teeny tiny details were sent over to Riot. I'm sure Brian's saying, make sure it's exactly this or this, like this detail has to be like this. And that's why these feel a lot better than a lot of other really, really nice Riot made knives, right? We use like the Chavez 229, for example. I love the Chavez 229. It's a great knife. And the production ones, as far as I know, are still being made by Riot. It's great. Holding them side by side, I'd almost wonder if they were made by two different companies, because this feels quite a bit more polished. Little teeny tiny details, right? Obviously, it's got a lot more flowy lines, and there's the radius edges and everything like that. And the Chavez is a much more intentionally blocky design. So a lot of that is really just design language. But my point is that it takes a good designer and a good OEM to really execute on a good product, and this is a perfect example of that. These are some of the nicest production knives in the world. Love or hate the aesthetic, they are some of the most complete and some of the best looking, best feeling production knives I've ever handled, and I've maintained that opinion for the entirety of my channel's existence, which is over 6 years. So yeah, absolutely still the case here. Really love the pivot. Love that this is lipped. I mean, it's the same thing with all of the design. Like, they all do that. Just really like that. It's a nice way to keep the pivot looking flush and still have the contoured frame around it. It is not a proprietary pivot. Obviously, the adjustments fastener is on the non-show side. So it's just simple Torx, right? Like I said, seam construction. This isn't always great. A lot of companies can't get this exactly right. I think this is where, Riot really shines, is that if there are two pieces that are supposed to line up absolutely perfect, they're going to line up absolutely perfect on a Riot. And they do, right? A lot of people, like, at first glance might think that this is an integral. But no, it's just a really, really precision seam right there. So that's nice. On top of that, the inlays are perfect. It's actually really hard to tell where the titanium ends and the carbon fiber begins. They're contoured the same way, really nice. This is good looking carbon fiber. It's not that flat, shiny stuff. He's done a lot of different inlay materials in the past. I mean, just the few that you see here, we've got G10. We have this like purple shred. Obviously the Alatex or the silver twill. We have, I think this is actually Mokotai. And then this is another, like a different shred carbon fiber, but it's always been great. Like, the consistency with these is just fantastic. And there's no reason, like, if you like the design, obviously the different knives that he makes is going to be more or less appealing to different people. But if you like how they look and you're worried about quality, don't, because they're going to be really, really good. Like, all of the different ones. I mean, even outside of the ones that I've got here, I've handled tons of these things, and they've all been essentially perfect. So, carry depth. I like these clips. I like that they are milled, right? This is like a polished clip. Over time, these are going to get marked up, and I wish I actually have another Evo Typhoon that I carry, and that one is absolutely beat down. And the fact that it's got a satin finish on it, even if they blasted it, would be the same thing, right? But they're going to get marked up over time just from rubbing up against stuff. That's perfectly fine. In and out of the pocket is super smooth. These are really high tension, so once it's in your pocket, if you like find yourself doing cartwheels a lot, like if you cartwheel to work, your knife's still going to be in your pocket when you get there. These are going to hold on, definitely. But they don't, like, there's no texturing underneath, and it's a smooth release. So it doesn't feel so tight that, like, you're going to have to pull really hard and then accidentally let go of the blade and throw it across the street or anything like that. No, it's just kind of the right balance. Carry depth is also really good, just a little tiny bit of the knife sticking up out of your pocket. We have a lot of the lock bar covered up by the inlay there, which is, to my knowledge, always been the case. They did make, I guess, some of the earlier Evo Typhoons were just like exposed frame locks, and I think actually some of the newer ones maybe still did that. So on the Chicanes, they're all covered by an overlay or inlay. So the benefit of that is when you're trying to figure out, like for a lot of people, you can, proof of what I'm saying, if you go under like Blade HQ reviews and you read like, you know, this knife, this titanium frame lock has a whole bunch of 5-star reviews and then like one 1-star review. Sometimes you'll go into there and read the 1-star review and you'll read that someone said, I tried as hard as I could never flip it. There's something wrong with this knife. And if you know, you're probably thinking, I bet they were putting pressure on the lock bar, right? So if you're new, and you've never experienced a frame lock before, putting excess pressure on that lock bar while you're flipping it, you're pushing the lock bar and the detent into the blade, making it harder for the knife to release it, right? Which, once you figure that out, it's not a problem. It depends on the design and how narrow the frame is. But with this, your finger naturally falls to this inlay here, which is not putting pressure on the frame lock because it's independent from the inlay there. So that's nice. I've always appreciated that. It just lets you enjoy the intended action, the intended detemp break and general deployment of the knife. So that's nice that they did the same thing there. This is a steel lock bar insert that doubles as the over travel stop. No surprise there. You also, of course, have the inlay acting as an over travel, so you're not going to bend that out. We have quite a bit of shouldering, very deep rounding around that stop pin. Absolutely no blade play, up, down, left to right. The geometry of the frame lock here and just Riyad's ability to get everything exactly right means that this is going to be a strong frame lock, right, compared to general, like the average frame lock. It's going to be substantially stronger and more reliable than the average frame lock in the knife world. There's also no lock stick. I don't think I've ever experienced lock stick on a Sharp by Design knife. The geometry is just absolutely a perfect balance between lockup solidity, reliability, and smoothness of disengagement, I guess is what we're going to call it. There is no double clutch. Of course, there's no pivot lash. I would never, ever expect that to be the case with either Sharp by Design or Riyadh. Very consistent, right? It's the same amount of tightness throughout. It's not even really that tight. It's just exactly the same. And then the detent, just exactly what you want it to be with. Even though we are looking at a seam construction, the tip of that blade is exactly on the seam, which is very satisfying. And then there's no detent lash. These are expensive knives, right? I always say a lot of the Chinese production knives that are using materials like titanium, carbon fiber, and 20CV or M390 or whatever, Magna Cut, right? A lot of that stuff you kind of expect to see between 200 and 275, and if you're going to go over 300, it had better have something that feels extra, not just the materials themselves. If your sense of value is based entirely on materials, you are missing out on so many other important elements that really go into the final price, right? So any knife that's going to be a Chinese production knife utilizing these materials, if it's going to go over 300, it needs to feel like it costs more than $300, right? Or that it's a step above knives that you find under 300. And this does, just like every other Sharp by Design knife. Over the years, these knives, these production Riyadh collabs, really haven't climbed up in price all that much. I mean, if you go back like, 2017, 2018, and you look at the price of the Evo Typhoons, I think they were right around the same price. The base price of these is $350, which I appreciate and I feel like is right on point. Again, you could say, well, you're biased because you love Sharp by Design stuff. Maybe so, but the truth is that these are really, really nice. There's a reason why so many other people besides myself say the same thing. They're not for everybody, but generally speaking, you're not going to hear hardly anybody say that these don't feel like high-quality knives. And in my opinion, it's very easy to tell the difference between something like this and something that I would normally expect from any number of Chinese production companies out there, collaborating with some other designer. So not to say that nothing else is worth it. I can understand personally how they arrived at that price tag. So, not going to be for everybody. And as far as like how this ranks with my other Sharp by Design knives, I still like the Mini Tempest, the Evo Typhoon, and the Mini Evo Typhoon. I know that I'm not saying that correctly with the Mini. I still like those more, but I think personally I like this one more than the Derecho. This is not so curvy that it bothers me, and it is so wildly comfortable. Just really, really enjoy the ergonomics on this one, but I like them all, right? I guess if I was going to rank them, yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd probably go like from left to right. I'd probably go like this. The Evo Typhoon, like the full-size one, is definitely always going to be my favorite. I think I would prefer to see a larger Mini Tempest and a larger, like a full-size production chicane at some point. I think that would be really, really cool, but that's a preference, larger or smaller, right? So hope that gives you an idea as far as whether or not this is a recommendable knife. If you're shopping in that, $300 to $400 territory, absolutely. But just, the fact that that's a criteria is going to eliminate a lot of people. That's a lot of money for a pocket knife, so you kind of already have to know where you're at before you spend that type of money. Fortunately, most people who end up in that territory trying to decide whether or not they want to buy this, they've already climbed the ladder, right? So if you know what you're looking for, you just never really experienced a Sharp by Design knife. If you're wondering, should I pull the trigger and spend $350 on the Mini Chicane, I think you'll absolutely love it. For other people that are, more comfortable around $50 to $100, should you just bump up really fast to a $350 knife? No, you should enjoy what you enjoy and kind of get a better feel for exactly what you expect from a pocket knife before you decide whether or not you want to blow that much on something like this. But from my perspective, as somebody who has handled, I don't know how many hundreds of knives, between $20 and almost $7,000 for an individual knife, yes, I think this is absolutely worth $350. So this will go in my recommended knives playlist with kind of an asterisk there, right? Very much enjoy this one. I think it's a great product. That's going to be pretty much it today, guys. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex and on TikTok at _metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.